Hi everyone, and welcome to Watercolors with Jaylene. And today's tutorial is going to be making some little flowers, and they're a carnation type of flower in a vase of water. And before I get started with this, if I could ask you to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks in advance. So for this little tutorial, you can see I've done pretty much the same design in 3 different color schemes. And I just wanted to show you, how easy it is to create that. And a lot of times when people talk about painting water in watercolors, it sounds a little intimidating, like, oh boy, how do I do that? However, you can see, and these are pretty loose type of drawings and paintings, but you can see that pretty much water is going to, the water in a vase is going to be the reflection of the color of the flowers in the vase. And you'll see that here. So I think for today's tutorial, I am going to work on the purple or the lavender, just because those are my favorite colors. So real quick to get started, I will go over my materials list, which of course is pretty small and basic. And to begin with, I will be using a small piece of watercolor paper, and it's 140-pound cold press. This is Arches watercolor paper. I have 2 paint brushes. The first one is a number 8 round, and the second one is a number 1 round. I don't know if I will actually be using the number 1, but I have it here just in case. And I also have my jar of water to clean my brushes, my 24 cake paint set. It's the Winsor & Newton that I love so much and I talk about in just about all of my videos. And then I do have my a pencil and an eraser, and this is just a Pentel. It's a retractable eraser. So I have those 2, and then I also have my Micron 05 nib permanent marker. So the reason I have the pencil and the eraser is if you want to draw this in pencil to begin with. I think I'm just going to start with the marker. I've done enough of these, I don't feel I really need to pencil it in, but if you're more comfortable doing that, then go for it. So I'll set that aside, and let me grab my marker. And what I'll do first, and you can see in actually all of these that for the vase itself, it's kind of just a loose drawing. It's not real precise. It's not real totally proportionate, I guess. So anyway, it's just a real quick, easy sketch. So I'll start out with my vase, and it's going to be kind of a round one. And like I said, it's not going to be perfect. And if even in the sketching part of it, even if there's little spaces or whatever, that's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. I do kind of like to make a little just some little accents and highlights, but we'll do that, I guess, closer to the end. And so we can come up around. All right, and then for the flowers, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do more of this style with 3 flowers. So the one in the middle one is going to be a flower that's looking straight at me, and then the one on either side is looking sideways. And so for carnations, they're very easy. They're basically just a circle with a bunch of squiggly lines to create the texture of the leaves. And then for the ones on the side, it's kind of a half moon shape of the little squiggly lines. So to start on the main one looking straight at us, and I'll keep my pen kind of sideways so you can see exactly what I'm doing here. I start in the middle of the flower and just kind of do squiggly lines going out, and they don't want to be touching everywhere. So that's pretty much it for the flower looking straight at us. Now for the flowers on either side, it's going to be kind of a half moon shape that we're going for. And you want to put in some squiggly lines that kind of show the texture of the petals. And then for the middle, you know, you want to bring some of it out. And then over here we do the same thing, just kind of a half moon shape thing, squiggly lines to create all of the individual petals. Because with a carnation, there's so many levels of the petals, you know, and they're very very textured. So then for the telltale sign on a carnation is the coming off of the base of the flower. It's always going to be wide and then you know, getting thinner down towards the stem portion. So for this one, we'll start out, you know, pretty wide, and then bring the stem down into the water. And then over here, the same thing. You want it pretty wide and then narrowing down and have the stem come down into the flower. And the same for this one. See how quick and easy this is? Anybody can do this. You know, a lot of these little paintings, if you kind of break it down step by step, they're not hard. And because I do try to keep them, you know, pretty simple and basic so that anybody can do them. And I make cards, greeting cards with a lot of these. So you want to keep them simple, you know, if you're making greeting cards. So then for the leaves, the leaves are pretty hardy. You know, they aren't just a quick little teardrop shape. They are pretty hardy, and there's a lot of texture to them as well. And so I'm kind of just bringing some greenery down the side. And there again, you don't have to be real specific with it. I think I'll have some greenery coming up through here. I don't even really want to call them leaves. They're more of a stem. And then over here, I think I'll have one coming out of the side. I'm coming back down in. So that's pretty much it. Oh, let me draw just a horizon line so that we can establish the counter or the table that the vase is setting on. Okay. All right, so now it's time to do the fun stuff, the painting. So as I mentioned, with this one I'm going to be doing colors of lavender, and let's see, I'll be using, the name of the color is Violet, and then I'll also be using, it's called Purple Lake, and the Purple Lake is more of the, it's got reddish tints to it. So, and you can see that there are different layers of color on both the carnations and the greenery portion. That is one of the little tricks with watercolor painting, and I've mentioned it before, is layering. You know, it's very important. So you start off with the lighter layers on the bottom, and as you build up, they get darker and more pronounced. So we'll start with some lavender, and it's going to be wet on dry for this. And now I don't want a whole lot of paint on my brush. And for this, I really am not going to paint solidly within the lines. I'm just kind of dabbing the paint around. And if it goes out of the lines a little bit, that's fine. And we're keeping this fairly light. And then we'll come down and do this one. And then again over here. And we're just bringing some of that paint into it. So now, and that's with the purple. Okay, so now I'm going to be using a little bit of the Purple Lake, which has the pinkish or reddish tones to it. Just kind of dabbing it in there to give it, you know, a little texture and color. I think the lavenders and purples are my favorite. They're definitely my go-to. Okay, so we have some of that color in there. So we're going to let that dry a little bit, the flowers themselves. So while they're drying, I'm going to do some of the water. And as I mentioned earlier, it's pretty much just a reflection where, you know, the water is reflecting the colors of the flowers. So I'm going to take a little bit of the lavender and very lightly, not real dark on my brush, you know, and just kind of come in. And you don't want solid lines, you know, you want to dab it around. And I do try and do quite a bit on the sides, okay? And then I'm going to do just a hint up around here. Now this isn't really water, but it is reflection. Okay, so we can let that dry for a couple minutes, and then we'll add just a hint of other colors to it. And I'll tell you what we can do is right along the sides, just a little bit of blue, which does designate, you know, water. Okay, so you don't have to get real technical with any of it. And then we are also going to do the purple. Now what I'm going to do, you can see down here how there's a little bit of a shadow from the vase itself, right? So we're going to put that in while we're waiting for all of this other to dry. And there again, you don't really want a whole lot of color on your brush. You want more water. And then it starts out pretty wide down at the base of the vase or jar, and then as it goes away it gets thinner or less wide, shall we say. Now I kind of want to lift a little bit of this off. I almost got a little too much on here. Want to be just a little bit lighter. And then keep in mind, as the colors dry, as the paint dries, it does lighten up, which you can kind of see that happening in the flower portion of it. Okay, so now I'm going to grab just a hint of yellow, and I want to put just a little bit of color on the wall, just to give it a little bit of character and depth to the background. So that's going to be very, very light, very minimal. And just a little, I'm not sure what that little spot is. Okay, that's gone. All right, so that's perfect. Okay, so now that the flowers have dried pretty much, we want to do another layer, and this layer is going to be just a very small amount of the violet, and I'm just doing it a little bit towards, oops, that's a little too much, towards the middle, and then maybe just a little bit on the outside, and that's pretty much just you know, just giving it a little bit more depth. Okay, so I think that's good. And you can see it's just a couple little dabs of paint. We're not doing a lot here. So now I'm going to, real quick, do the stems and the leaves, or the greenery. And I'm going to be using my Hooker's Green for this. And I come in, and it's just a real quick, you know, it's not, I'm not trying to stay within the lines or doing 100%. You know, I'm just kind of dabbing the green in there to give it the color. And then I'm going to do the same with the greenery or the leaves. Okay, just putting some color in here. Let me grab a little bit more paint. Get a little bit darker. And see, for all of this, I'm using my number 8 brush. And I don't know if I mentioned it before, but if you feel more comfortable with like a number 4, something a little smaller, if you're doing a small piece, if you're doing something a little larger, then the 8 would work just fine. And you can see I'm just kind of dabbing in, it's the same color, it's still the Hooker's green. I'm just dabbing a little bit into certain areas so that it can kind of, you know, give it a little bit of texture and depth. Okay, so you have that pretty much done. And I think actually that looks a little bare in there, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I am going to just go in and dab just a little bit of green throughout, just to kind of fill it in a little bit, you know, and it's not real defined as to what it is, just it's a little bit more greenery. Okay. So now that we have that, let me grab just a smidgen of the violet, and I want to towards the top, the top of the water. I'm just going to real lightly put in a couple little dabs that kind of, I don't know, I guess they just show that it is the top of the water line. And a couple down through here. And down along the bottom. You don't really want to do too much. You don't want too much to get in there, and I had there. Okay. We can kind of blend all of that a little bit. And I'll do just as hair down here, you know, to give it that extra little layer. All right, and that's it. So that's just how quick it goes. You know, it doesn't take long at all. And so for this one, you know, for my card designs, of course, I would use the lavender background. But then let me show you these again. I have the oranges and yellows, and then I do have the different shades of blue as well. So there are all 3. Now I will have a list of all of the materials that I've used today down in the description box below. And again, if I could have you like and subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate it. It really helps me out a lot. And also, I wanted to let you know that I do have a Patreon page. So if you want to scoot on over to that, it's Watercolors with Jaylene on Patreon. And for a couple bucks a month, because it is a membership-based site, so for a couple bucks a month, you can get download traceables, you know. So if you wanted any of my paintings, I do have the traceables over there that you can download and trace them and then paint them. There's also coloring pages over there. There's instruction sheets on some of my videos here on YouTube. You'll find the instructions over there. I have little paintings that are complete that you can download and or print off and put in a frame. So there's all kinds of really cool stuff over there, and I'm adding to that all the time. And I think that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed my video, and until next time, ciao for now.